All right, well, very good. Welcome to the Land Clearance and Redevelopment Authority for its regularly scheduled meeting on November 1, 2023 at 4 o'clock p.m. Held via Zoom. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Anderson, not present. Commissioner Spencer, Commissioner Jones,
Present.
and Chair McBride.
Present.
And you have a quorum with 3 present and 1 absent.
Very good. We'll take up the approval of the minutes from the meeting held on September 29, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Thank you. And now we'll take up resolution 23 LCRA 10-816 relating to a blighting study for the Locust Street, North 6th, Pine, and North 7th. Zach, you're going to walk us through that, please?
Yes, sir. This resolution is updating a blind study we passed in June 3rd, 2022. When we passed the blind study back in 2022, it was with a redevelopment plan. Alderman Coder supported that redevelopment plan. He later pulled the board bill last session. And then since then, there's been an election. Alderwoman Karen Spencer is over the ward now, and would like to proceed with a board bill to allow for eminent domain and tax abatement for these 2 blocks. So we decided to update the blind study because there's a couple changes that have occurred since our last blind study. The Sky Bridge has been taken down, and also there's been a fire, and the condition of the building has gotten much worse than that when we first did the blind study. And we also focused mostly on the parking garage condition for safety reasons. This one takes into account the building also in the more greater detail. So we would like to approve this resolution to update the blind study so we can tie it to the board bill that's at the board of Aldermen currently, so we can proceed with that. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Zach, I seem to recall. Okay, yeah, you've got the city block there. Which property is there a property being excluded still in the current iteration of this resolution?
The blind study covers both city blocks, but the eminent domain language in the board bill excludes 622 Olive, is the tiny skinny white building at Olive and 7th Street that was occupied at the time of the last blighting study. So
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Any questions is there anyone else who is presenting on this resolution, Zach?
no, now on this one.
Any questions for Zach by the commissioners?
I just have a quick one, Zach. We know the privately owned one on the corner you just mentioned, 207 North 6th Street, the old Charlie Guido's, I think it is. That's also part of this board bill too, and they will have to come back to us if eminent domain is chosen to move forward with.
Correct. Yes, and I know for sure that building's on the market currently, so that may be an easier acquisition than some of the other parcels.
Okay. And then the last quick one is the parking lot and the parking structure. Are those all tied to the same owner of the Railway Exchange building?
No, that's part of the problem. There's several different owners for each of these parcels.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Very good. Unless there are any further questions, then I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution 23 LCRA 10-816.
Actually, I do have a quick
Oh,
question.
go ahead.
I'm hearing the talk about eminent domain, but it's not in the resolution. Are you just sharing that as a forethought of what we might use as a tool to?
The previous resolution we passed in 2022 had a redevelopment plan tied with the blind study, and that redevelopment plan allowed for eminent domain, and that's why I'm referring to eminent domain in this resolution. We're just updating the blind study. That's all we're doing in this resolution.
Got it. Well, per your request, Chairman, so moved.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Spencer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Chair McBride.
Aye.
Motion passes with all voting yes.
Thank you. Now we'll take up revised resolution 23 LCRA 10-817. Zach, can you walk us through that, please?
Yes, this resolution is declaring North Grand, Natural Bridge, North Florissant, Cass Avenue, Dr. Martin Luther King to be blighted and approving an updated blighting study and plan for this same area. Back in May 2023, we approved a blighting study by itself for this area. It's kind of rare for something we do normally. We usually pass redevelopment plans and blighting studies together. But for an area this large, we were waiting for neighborhood plans to be adopted to move up forward with a redevelopment plan for this area. The what's good about kind of this time, the neighborhood plans have been pushed back. So neighborhood groups of the JVL and St. Louis Place have come together with Legal Services Eastern Missouri to propose a redevelopment plan for this area. We're very supportive of this redevelopment plan. Allows for up to 15 years of tax abatement. Addresses vacancy in the area allows for eminent domain. I won't go into greater detail, but the structures have to be condemned if they're structures on parcel. Vacant lots can be used, eminent domain can be used on them. No side lots of residents can be used with eminent domain. Vacant industrial and commercial buildings can be used for eminent domain. So I'm going to bring Peter Hoffman on. He's has been working with the neighborhood groups to create this draft. And Peter, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
We can, Peter. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Zach. Maybe the best way for me to approach it is just to give a little summary. You'll see a lot of things in this plan that are conventional, and then there's a few kind of new quirks here and there that I want to highlight in detail. And after that, maybe I can just answer any questions you all have. As Zach said, my name is Peter Hoffman. I'm a managing attorney for neighborhood advocacy at Legal Services. We represent community organizations in the city of St. Louis, and we've been retained by both the Jeff Vanderloo Neighborhood Association and the St. Louis Place Community Association to draft and propose this plan that is before you all today. We hope that you'll vote to approve and adopt this plan. As Zach said, when the news was released that there was a blighting study done for the neighborhoods that surround NGA, JVL, and St. Louis Place, our office was contacted by residents who were concerned about the implications of that plan. Would that mean their properties were in jeopardy of facing eminent domain? And we really spent the last 5 months, I guess now, talking through what is authorized under Missouri law, under Chapter 9 and Chapter 353, and discussing and drafting provisions that I think allow for development to go forward in the neighborhood. I think the residents in the neighborhoods that I'm here representing are supportive of development in the neighborhood. They recognize that investment is needed in these two neighborhoods. You know, I think, but the thing we need to consider is also there's a lot of people who have lived here for a very long time, and their recognition, their investment in the neighborhood needs to be recognized and protected. And so we think we have a plan that does that by curtailing the city's use of eminent domain, just modestly, as Zach said, really protecting existing owner-occupied properties, homes, businesses that are maintained in good order, while allowing the city to move forward with its eminent domain authority for vacant parcels not owned by residents or properties that have become nuisances. We've held weekly meetings with those two community organizations and members. We've had several town halls. The plan has been introduced at a number of JVL and St. Louis Place neighborhood association meetings. We've encouraged residents to attend those and provide feedback to this draft. And they've done so. So I know we don't speak for everybody with this plan, but I think there is some broad consensus in the neighborhood that this is the right fit for this particular project. The other two components that I think are rather novel, and I know the city of St. Louis hasn't had neighborhoods proposed redevelopment plans, but this is something that's common in other parts of the state, specifically in Kansas City. And so we borrowed some ideas from our friends and neighbors on the western side of the state. And in addition to the limited eminent domain authority, there are really kind of two components to this that I want to mention. One is to make it clear that existing owner occupants in the neighborhood can qualify for a property tax abatement when they work to improve and eliminate nuisance conditions on their own properties, something that I don't think has been formalized or done elsewhere. And then the other component is for projects over $1 million where tax abatement is being sought, that there is some formalized community advisory panel that can help that development along, be sort of the conduit between LCRA staff and commissioners, the developer, and residents who would be affected by that proposed development. So those are really the sort of three unique components. I'm sure you all have questions. I'm happy to answer those. And again, thank you for the opportunity to allow us to present this. And on behalf of these two community organizations and the residents they represent, I ask that you all consider approval and adoption of this plan in conjunction with the blight study. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. I appreciate it. I appreciate the effort that you and our office have engaged in this process. And again, I just want to, I think you mentioned it a few times, but I just want to reiterate it because I had some misunderstanding from something I saw this morning that the neighbors in the JVL and St. Louis Place have been active participants in this process through your office. Is that correct, Peter?
Absolutely. Many of them, I think, are probably on the call right now, listening in. We've had, I would say, really robust and consistent contributions by both neighborhood leaders and also just membership at large. Apologize for that. So yes, again, you're not going to be in an area this size. You're not going to be able to touch every owner, every business owner, every property owner. But there have been numerous opportunities for residents to get involved, and their contributions have been encouraged and incorporated into this plan.
Outstanding, and that I think that's great, and that's great progress. And I want to assure everyone on this call that that's listening from JVL and St. Louis Place that it's not our intention in any way to address eminent domain on any owner-occupied residential properties, and so I'm glad we've clarified that. I'm glad that we've drawn a line and circled that because it certainly then relieves any concern that would be otherwise, unnecessary but unclarified. As far as one of the tweaks you mentioned, Mr. Hoffman, I do believe that in Lewis Place and a few others that we have done incentives for owner-occupied residential housing, but I'm glad that's clarified in this process because it's certainly something we want to encourage and certainly something that we want to make sure that investment is going into this area of St. Louis, into this community. And so we absolutely want them to work with our staff to the extent that they can take advantage of that abatement process through any non-nuisance properties that can then become further improved through this. I think that those are my observations right now. I see President Richardson's hands up, so I'll recognize Neil.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and my apologies for being in the car during this call. I was leaving another meeting that went over, but I thought it was critically important for me to be present and speak about this particular resolution, as the community and the neighborhood organizations have engaged very strategically with SODC and directly around their challenges, their concerns, but then the opportunities that exist. And them putting forth this redevelopment plan, I think is a great testament to the leadership of those community organizations. And SODC is in full support, and LCRA, from a staffing perspective, is in full support of the voices of those neighborhood organizations and those residents We appreciate the time that they took out of their schedules to participate in this process and partnering with the legal services of Eastern Missouri, which has always been a strong partner of SLDC and LCRA, to put forth a plan that meets their needs, because our goal is to design development plans and proposals that ultimately support them. And it's not just about one development project, even though historically, before this board, we're deciding on one parcel or one project at a time. It's great to see the leadership of those organizations put forth a plan that works for the majority of the residents, the businesses, and the neighborhood in this area overall. And it gives us guidance and comfort that the development proposals that we will see moving forward in this area will have to abide by these redevelopment plans. And if there are any concessions outside of that, will need to be raised up in this before this board and be considered. And then we can also have voices of the community to weigh in for any variances and deviations from the development plan that's being put forward. So again, I just want to commend the neighborhood organizations. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman, for your leadership and participation. And as I said before, LCRA, SODC is strong partners in working with those organizations to meet their objectives, because this is about them at the end of the day. This is their city as much as it is ours. So thank you for that time and the opportunity, Chairman McBride, to speak on that today.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for the community members. It's our city, but this is your neighborhood. So I'm glad that you've been involved in that. Mr. Hoffman, are there any opt-in provisions for any parcel owners that need a clear title or anything like that through an eminent domain process? Or is
Yes.
that too far down the road?
No, that is something our working group considered and discussed and included. And so for parcel owners who maybe they have a complicated title and they've been maybe stuck in that property and there is no way for them to sell it, they can, at the request of LCRA, be eminent domained. So there is a provision for that for people who maybe want to move or sell the property but are unable to do so.
And that may end up being more helpful for some people than one may think. So that's good. I'm glad you considered all aspects of this. Any questions from the other commissioners on this resolution? Oh, your hand blended in with your artwork, Commissioner Spencer. Please proceed.
Thank you. Just have a couple of questions, trying to dive a little bit more into the details. Peter, could you explain, just so we're clear, because this is always a topic with developers in different neighborhoods, what the developer that brings a high impact development project or proposal will be required to complete before they can build their project, specifically as it relates to the neighborhood associations and the community advisory committee?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer this because this is one of the new or novel components to the redevelopment plan. I don't think I've seen anything like this in any other plans adopted by the city. But for these high impact developments, because they will have such an impact on the residents that live in the community, we proposed a community advisory panel of 3 to 5 neighborhood residents, members of these community organizations, who can, really it's a two-step process for the developer. One, there is a public sort of presentation component, and that could be at a neighborhood association meeting or somewhere near the geography outside of City Hall. Let's get the developers out into the community to talk about their project. So that's the first component of it. And the second component is actually a vehicle for neighborhoods and to provide feedback and guidance to the developer by way of a community advisory panel that can provide written recommendations. You know, if something needs to be altered in some way, or there maybe needs to be some sort of community benefit agreement put in place with respect to, streetscaping or lighting or, trash removal or something like that, that those things can be recommended by and through that community advisory panel. It is purely advisory in nature. The panel can make recommendations, but it does not bind the commissioners anyway to vote one way or the other, or the staff to weigh in. It really is just a vehicle by which residents can be informed of what projects are coming to the neighborhood, hear about them, and then also have a conduit to provide some feedback to the LCRA before that abatement or assistance is given. So I think it's rather modest, but it's pretty important to these neighborhoods to know what's coming and just have some sort of formalized vehicle to have that dialogue with that developer, with the LCRA. I think in the past, what LCRA has done is just say to the developer, go get a letter of support or something like that. And, I think, well, that's meaning, who is the neighborhood, who gives a letter of support, who does that speak for? And sometimes that can create some ambiguity and some conflict. We thought by adding just a little bit more structure to it, formalizing that panel, it would give a more clear direction to the developer and to the LCRA about what those neighborhoods would really like to see with any specific project.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that works. I think it's a great idea. Just have a couple other small pieces. On the $2,000 investment by the homeowners into their properties for the tax abatement approval, is that a one-time expense, or is that an aggregate over some period of time? And is there a time frame? And also talk maybe a little bit about the approvals, because typically they come to us. But what I understand with this proposal is that it can be internal, can happen fast, and can be a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, I can defer to Zach probably on the sort of how this will be handled internally, but you are correct. It's a one-time improvement. So if existing homeowner is putting a roof on their property or repairing their deck, making those investments to the facade, maybe getting some tuck pointing done, they would be eligible to apply to LCRA for the abatement. This is something that's pretty commonplace in Kansas City, to use these resident abatements to help prevent increased tax bills when development inevitably comes. And I think everybody on this call is optimistic to see investment in Northside. We want to make sure that those existing residents aren't displaced because they're unable to pay their property tax bill. So if someone is receiving, for instance, home repair from the city of St. Louis, and they are within this area, or they make an improvement themselves, and they can show the city that they've made that improvement, they would qualify for that tax abatement.
That is wonderful.
Zach, I don't know if you have anything further on the staff level for how that might work. I know we've already maybe have noodled that a little bit.
Yeah, we would handle that internally at our level, Commissioner Spencer. We'd take an application, a short form application, maybe some before photos and after photos, and proceed with the application through that process.
Okay. Yeah. Tying it into the home repair program is really smart too. That's great to see. And the last thing I had is just noticing the Chapter 99 and then the 353 tax abatements. I think that goes up to 15 years, but the primary reason I'm assuming that that's in there is for to attract LIHTC projects with the 60% of AMI.
Correct.
Right.
The tax abatement beyond 10 years is only available for the LIHTC projects under this plan.
Okay. Thank you.
And for clarity, so there's no misunderstanding, as I understand the home improvement portion of this, that the abatement would just be for that improvement. So we wouldn't be abating the entire value of the property. We'd just be abating the incremental improvement up to the $2,000. Is that an accurate synopsis?
Well, it would be an abatement, so it would be a freeze at that pre-development level, so that amount that they're currently taxed at, there would not be an increase in their tax value despite their improvements to the property over that 10-year period.
Right. Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. Very good. Any other questions from the commissioners for Mr. Hoffman? Any follow-up or anything else, Mr. Wilson?
No, sir.
Looks like
All
Neil's
right.
hands raised. I'm not sure if he's trying to say something.
President Richardson, I think you have your hand still up, but I
Okay.
think it's just from the previous comment. I think that's accurate. Thank you. Hearing no further comments, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve Resolution 23 LCRA 10817.
So moved, request the previous roll.
And Kennard, you're muted. I think you seconded.
Second.
And properly moved and seconded with previous role requested. Is there any objection to that request? Hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is approved. Again, thank you for all the work that you, Mr. Hoffman, put in your office, and more importantly, the residents of the neighborhoods. That's great that they took the time out of their schedules to come and have be heard in this process.
Thank you, commissioners.
At this time, we'll take up open agenda. Is there anything in open agenda?
No, sir, I'd just like to thank all three of you for making time for this. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Very good. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 14th. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Moved and seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
take care.
Thank you.